name's Charlene. I'm one of the speech pathologists at Spectronics, and I'm part of a team of speech pathologists and teachers who provide these online training sessions on a number of different topics. So if you have any questions, as I said, make sure you type those into the chat box. And over the next hour, we're going to look at some of the basics to the interactive features of the Boardmaker Plus program. We're also going to focus particularly on an activity of making a talking book. But in showing you that, you'll actually see how to use a number of features that you can apply to lots of different other activities. So things like making a button speak, playing a recorded message, reading a symbolated button with highlighting. I'm also going to show you a couple of the new features of Boardmaker Plus version 6. So let's have a look at a few slides to start with. There are 4 different models of Boardmaker at the moment. We have Boardmaker version 6, Boardmaker Plus version 6, Boardmaker with Speaking Dynamically Pro, and Boardmaker Studio. Now I'm going to just explain each of those briefly. So we'll start with Boardmaker 6. Actually, I'll just flick through. Boardmaker is a resource for making printed materials. There's a core library of 4,500 symbols, but you can add to that with addendums. And you can also add to that library with importing digital images and additional symbols. So really that version is just for making stuff that you print. Boardmaker Plus, which we're going to speak more about today, is a resource for making printable materials, but you can also make interactive on-screen activities. Things like active talk, songs, games, pop-up questions, assessments. Basically, you could use Boardmaker Plus across the home environment, in the community, in a therapy setting, or at school, across a number of different topics and skill areas. And it's really only limited by your imagination. But if you're someone like me who doesn't always imagine things very well, you can actually get a lot of pre-made resources and tweak those. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about that towards the end. Boardmaker Speaking Dynamically Pro is similar to Boardmaker Plus. It allows you to make printable materials. You can make interactive on-screen activities, but it just has a few little extra features like word prediction and abbreviation expansion for writing and communication. So it's really what you would purchase to put on a laptop or a notebook or a dedicated speech generating communication device for an individual to use as their communication option. And finally, there's Boardmaker Studio, which is just came out at the beginning of the year. This is the newest version. You can make printable materials and you can create interactive on-screen activities, but I guess it has a different interface to Boardmaker as most of us know it. So they've got some similar icons and menus to the Microsoft Office type applications, and there's also well over 200 templates that you can use. So for someone who's never used Boardmaker, it's a great option because it's a little bit more user-friendly and you can create things very quickly. So with all Boardmaker versions, we have picture communication symbols that are used, and they're the drawings of objects, activities and feelings. Sometimes people refer to PCS as PECS or COMPIC, but PECS is a way of using symbols to help people communicate, and you could use PCS or any other symbol system or photos, and COMPIC is a different symbol set altogether. So when I say PCS, I'm referring to the Boardmaker images that are used by Mayer Johnson in their program. More recently, they brought out some different versions called the thin line versions, which are a little bit more realistic, clean cut drawings that you can see on the bottom row in that, on the slide, and the top line is the classic symbols that you've probably been seeing over the years. So both those options are available now, and you can add to your symbol libraries. There are the addendums that were from 2003 to 2008 that provide you with 6,000 extra symbols. And from last year they started putting out themed libraries. So you've got themed, classic and thin line symbols that you can purchase to add to your symbol library. So we're going to go take a look at the actual program right now. So if you'll come along with me, we'll have a look at Boardmaker. Now, I'll take you to the screen that you would normally see when you first open Boardmaker. And that's a big yellow screen with 3 big buttons on it. So the first button you have is the blue one, which is opening a new board. You can do that if you're just going to start something from scratch. The second option is to open a saved board or add-on, and basically what happens is if when you install Boardmaker, it creates a folder called My Boards in your Documents folder, and if you choose this button to open a saved board, that's where it will take you, is to that folder, and you can access any of the activities you may have already created. And then you've also got an option to open a template. So just thinking we might go into templates now. When you install your Boardmaker Plus, you also have an option to install a supplemental CD. So there are 2 CDs that comes with, and if you do install that supplemental CD, you'll get a couple of extra folders installed, which you can access through the templates button. And we're just going to have a look at the interactive sample boards. So these come with Boardmaker. I'm just going to scroll down to what's called the main board and open that up. So this is a nice way of seeing some different ways that you can create activities, the sorts of things you can do with Boardmaker Plus. So to actually get into interactive mode, what I need to do is use a keyboard shortcut, or I can use the menu at the top called Dynamic Boards. It's good to remember the keyboard shortcuts because you do need them when you're coming out of interactive mode, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So interactive mode is also called Use mode, and the keyboard shortcut is Control and U for Use, or you can click on Dynamic Boards, and at the top there you've got the options of Design or Use. So we know we're in design mode because this is where we can edit our boards. We've got the toolbar and the rulers and green lines on our page. Now if I go into use mode, my screen actually goes to full screen mode, and as I hover my mouse across some of the buttons, we'll hear things.
Communication and participation. Language. Literacy.
Okay, so let's start with looking at communication and participation. And just have a little look at an activity called 5 Speckled Frogs. This is a songboard that's been created, so probably more appropriate for a younger age group. Basically we've got a message window at the top, and we've got the different parts of the song underneath it, and then we can, you could display this up on an interactive whiteboard, a smartboard, or on a touchscreen computer with a small group of kids, and you could have each different children come up and play different parts of the song to sing it together. So these buttons have little behaviours that have been programmed behind them, and one of them has singing that's been recorded onto it. So if we start off with 5 little speckled frogs sat on a speckled log. So you can hear the singing that's been recorded there with someone's voice, and as we've clicked on the buttons, they've gone up into the message window, so they also have that additional programming behind them as well. We can speak what's in the message window.
Speak.
5 little speckled frogs sat on a speckled log. And
remove last.
we can remove parts of the song, or we can clear the whole message window.
Remove
So
last.
that's just an example of the songboard. Let's go back to the main board
Social studies
of our examples. We'll have a quick look at literacy.
Symbol sentence strips.
And just thinking of an activity we might do under literacy. Let's read
Back.
again.
Social studies. Butterfly.
Beach book.
Shells.
So here we have
It's time to go to the beach. Pictures.
a interactive talking book.
Look at my pictures from the beach.
And this is what we're going to be creating in a little while. So we can click on this button at the bottom to turn the page. And if you had an individual who had some physical disability and wasn't able to use the mouse or the keyboard, you could also, with Boardmaker Plus, you've got some additional access options where you can add in a switch so the individual could hit the switch to move and do some scanning. So as we click on parts of the book,
I found shells at the beach.
we can hear it then read to us.
Shells. Back. Main board. Back. Writing.
We could go into
Write
beach
about a beach.
writing. And it's just an example of an activity for writing. So I
went
to the
beach.
saw a
Shell.
shell. Some of the spacing hasn't been programmed there, but you can see how that can be done.
Clear. Social studies.
You could also use Boardmaker for schedules and sequences for individuals that need some additional visual supports to help them with memory or knowing what to expect in their day or during an activity. So let's have a look at getting dressed sequence.
Put on your socks and shoes.
So this could represent anything really. You could have making a cup of tea or going to the toilet, washing your hands, making a sandwich, any sort of activity that has steps to it. So with this activity you can actually do dragging and dropping with the buttons. So I can start off with take off my pajamas.
Take off your pajamas.
Drag it onto number 1. If I drag the wrong thing, it immediately snaps it back to its place, so it gives the individual some feedback as to what's correct in the sequence. You can turn that on or off depending on how much support you want to give the individual. So next thing,
put on your underwear. Put on your socks and shoes. Put on your outfit. Put on your socks and shoes.
And there we have the sequence. So what you could also add in there is perhaps a fun music clip or video clip or sound at the end once they've got the instructions or the steps in order, correct order.
Social studies.
An example of a science activity. We'll do the recycling one. Shows us some fun sounds that have been programmed using the Boardmaker sounds that come with Boardmaker Plus. So really it's just an activity for sorting. You can imagine there's any number of sorting activities that you could do for different age groups, even if it was just simple colours. But this is more of an advanced activity for science. So within the classroom you could have students come up and decide on what goes in the box. So it's just a matter of dragging and dropping.
Glass.
So that's correct. And
Paper.
But if we chose something incorrect,
no, try again.
We get some auditory feedback to try again.
No, try again.
If we choose the dog, we get the same thing. So you can see how that works.
Social studies.
And
Math.
a math activity, maths, if we do
more and less.
Sequencing.
Count.
That's the one. Counting. So here we've just got some options to choose from, which which number is correct after counting the butterflies. If we choose an incorrect one,
no, there is not one butterfly, try again.
But if we get it correct,
super, there are 4 butterflies.
a cheering sound, and we actually get a little animation playing, but you won't see that on the screen as the videos and animations don't play well through the webinar, but you can imagine that.
Main board.
Okay, so that's some examples of some activities that come with Boardmaker. You can either adapt those or use them as ideas for creating your own activities. Now, to get out of interactive mode, we need to use the keyboard shortcut to get back into design so we can make an activity. And the keyboard shortcut is Control D, so D for design. Control D. And we are going to go into making an activity. We'll start with our talking book. So to start with, we're going to make the template for the book, just so that we don't have to keep making the same pages for each page. So we'll start with going into the File menu and choose New Board. Just make that enlarged. And we're going to start by drawing a couple of buttons. So I'll use the button tool, which is the third icon from the left-hand side up in the top corner. Using our button tool, we'll create 2 big buttons. Just click and drag. And then I'm going to use the button spray tool to come down and spray 2 pages that are exactly the same size. Underneath that, I'm going to choose a small, or make a smaller button for our navigating our pages left and right. So a person can click on them, they'll take you forwards and backwards through the storybook. So we'll make that, spray that so it's exactly the same size, and then I'm just going to drag that one across to the far right. So I'm just going to fill those 2 little buttons at the base just using the symbol finder. The symbol finder is on the far left. It's the little silly face. And we'll start by just typing into the search box and do turn the page. And if I click on the thumbnail view, which is the button with all the shapes on it, it'll actually show me a whole lot of symbols that come up for the word turn. So I'm happy with the turn the page that's just there down in the bottom there. I'll click on that and I'm going to get rid of the text, so I'll just delete that from the second text box, and that means that when I click on my button that I want the symbol on, it will just place the symbol and not the text. I'll put it on the wrong page. Okay, I'll show you how you can swap those. So I actually wanted that on the far right one. Now I'm going to choose, type into the symbol finder, go back, and that's the symbol I want, so I'll just get rid of the text and click on the button there. So I do actually need to swap those symbols around. So if I choose my pointer tool, click on those 2 symbols, but I need to hold down the Shift key and then click on the other symbol. And now that those 2 are highlighted, I can actually go up to my Edit menu and choose Swap Buttons. So now that's a little bit more accurate. We've got the page turning forwards on the right and go back on the left. Now that's pretty much the basis of our template. We could pretty it up if we wanted to and give the background a colour. Just click in the background, choose the colour palette and choose a colour. If we wanted to, we could make our buttons have a colour by clicking on the button, choose the colour palette, and then just make sure that button is selected and not border, and then we could have a nice blue background for our 2 button pages, page buttons. Okay, and if we wanted to, we could also just select all of those buttons by dragging our mouse around them, and when they're selected you'll see a little dashed line. You can actually make those corners rounded, by using the corner tool, which is in the top fourth in from the right. If we click on the corner tool, we can make those edges look a little bit nicer on the pages, and perhaps we can just thicken them up a little bit. So now you can see this is our template for our storybook page. Now I'm going to save those. This is an important part of Boardmaker Plus. When you're making an activity, you often have multiple pages within the activity, and it's important to create them all within one folder. So we'll go to our File menu, we'll choose Save As, and we need to create a new folder. So just to the right of where it says My Boards, which is where it's going to save everything, we can click on the little icon that is for creating a new folder. If you need to find that out, you can just hover your mouse across the top and it will tell you create new folder. And then we can give that folder a name. So Zoo Trip is the name of it. And then we just need to open that folder, and everything we save, all of our pages, can be saved within that folder. So I'm going to start with page 3. Go backwards just so that I end up on page 1. I'm going to save again, so File, Save As, check that I'm in the right folder, and this time call it page 2. And once more, File, Save As, and this time call it page 1. So we now have 3 pages we've saved, 1, 2 and 3, and they're all within that folder called the Zoo Trip. So now we're pretty much ready to go with our story. Soon I'll show you some things that are really more exclusive to Boardmaker Plus. Some of this stuff at the start is really more generic to Boardmaker, and if you know most of the things about making buttons and adding pictures, then you're pretty much 80% of the way there to knowing how to create interactive activities, because most of the basic stuff you need to use first. Now on our first page we need a title. So I'm just going to start with, on the left hand side, I'll use the text tool, and just, that's the big A, come down to my first side of the page and click in there and type My Trip to the Zoo. Now I can make that a little bit larger. I'll just click on that with my pointer tool and right click, and then I can choose a font size, and we can fit that to the page just like that, dragging. We can center that text as well. There's a whole lot of things you can do with the text. You can change the font type, the color, and all of those sorts of things as well. Now on the right side, we're just going to go to the symbol finder and add a picture for the zoo. So I'll type zoo, click on my thumbnail view and choose the picture that I would like. I'm going to get rid of the text in that second text box, and then just click and drag to fill my picture. So that's our first page. We now need to add some behaviours or some actions in behind those buttons so that when we're in interactive mode, it will actually play sounds and we can move the pages forwards and backwards. So this is the stuff that's really essential to Boardmaker Plus. So I'm going to click on my mouse pointer tool, and now I'm going to double click on the title page, the title. So once I've double clicked there, we actually come up with the button actions menu, and this is the new stuff. What I want that button to do when someone clicks on it is speak a message. So we're going to focus on the basic button actions. There are hundreds of other actions you can do, and there's some pretty cool things you can make. To encourage you to explore some of the activities you can find in the sample folder, and also got to show you some resources a bit later where you can explore these and find out what people do when they're programming their activities. And the way you can do that is just by double clicking on a button and seeing what they've done. So we're going to add speak message, and we've got an option to enter the text that we want it to speak, or we can use the button text. And because we've got a title, it would make sense to use the button text. So we'll click OK, and now we have a button that's going to speak what's on the button. And on the right side, I'm going to double click, and this time I'm going to choose speak message, but I'm going to enter some text. I love going to the zoo. Do you want to hear about my trip? So if I click on OK and click on OK, and when the person clicks on that one, it's going to ask and repeat what we just typed. So now if we go into use mode or interactive mode by clicking on Control key and U, we can test the buttons speaking. So I'll click on the first one.
My trip to the zoo.
And I'll click on the second one.
I love going to the zoo. Do you want to hear about my trip?
There you go. Now we haven't added some actions down the bottom here to turn the page, so we'll go back into design mode, Control D, and if we double click on that button with the turn the page symbol, we can add the action called change board. Now the reason why we created that folder with all those pages in it makes a bit more sense now, because if we do want to navigate between pages, we've got all of the pages in the one place and they'll come up in this little selection of boards that we can choose from. So we do need them all in one spot. So we want to move from page 1 to page 2. So select page 2, click on OK, and click on OK. Alright, so that now, if we go into use mode, Control U, if we click on the page, turn the page, it takes us forward to page 2. Now we're ready to create page 2, so we'll go into design mode, Control D, and this time I'm going to drag and drop a photo from one of my picture folders. This is a feature of version 6 that makes it a little bit easier to put pictures into your Boardmaker activities. So I'll click on the picture folder from my computer, and that will come up, and I can then choose a picture. So I'll choose the lion, drag and drop that. So I drag it while I'm holding down my left mouse button until I get to the taskbar where I can see the Boardmaker program on the icon. It opens up Boardmaker for me, and I keep moving my mouse while my finger is on the left mouse button, and then when I'm ready to let go of the mouse, I do that once it's over the button I want to drop it on. So I'll let go, and I've dropped my picture there really easily. On the right hand side, I'm just going to add some text with symbols this time using the symbolate button, which is also another new feature to version 6. So the big A and the little smiley face there, I click on that on my toolbar and then come down to my second button on my page. I can drag a button and then type, I saw a scary lion. And you can see that we've got some symbols appearing with the text. We can edit those out if we want to get rid of some of the symbols, so things like which is not very helpful for a person to have the symbol with the text. So we'll double click on that and choose no symbol and click on OK. And my saw isn't the correct saw, so we'll double click on that and actually add a new symbol and perhaps look for look. Let's choose that one. And so we can add that to our symbol candidates and choose that as the picture that's represented for Thor. Okay, so we've got our text, symbolated text. I'm just going to drag that down into the middle. Disappeared for a moment. And now we're going to add some actions, some button actions. So the first button action we're going to do is change back the board so we can go back to page 1. Click on OK and OK. It's nice for individuals to be able to have some independence and be able to flick forwards and backwards through the pages if they're using, just as you would with a regular book, to go back to your favourite parts of the story. So we'll do change back, and we'll also change the page forward, so using that change board action to page 3, click on OK and click on OK. Now we're going to add a fun sound to the lion, so let's double click on him, and this time we're going to choose an action which is called play recorded message. So I'll click on play recorded message, and I've got different options. I can record a new sound, so I can make my own lion sound if I wanted to by using the microphone and recording. I can select sounds from the computer or from the Mayer Johnson sounds that come with the program. So I'm going to use a Mayer Johnson sound, and we'll go into animals. It takes us straight to the sound folder, animals, and then find the lion. Click on open. Asks us for a brief description of the sound, and it's already given it the name lion, which I'm happy with, so I'll click on OK. And now we can see that that action is assigned to the button. So we can click on OK. The second thing I'm going to do is just assign an action to the symbolate button with the text and the symbols. So I'll double click on that button, and I've got the option to actually add an action called read with highlighting. So I'll click on that, and we'll have a look at what that actually means. So click on OK, and now we'll go into use mode. So Control U. Now if I click on my go back page, it takes me back to the first page. Let's go forwards. If I click on the lion, we should hear the lion sound. If I click on the symbolate button, this time I should see it reading and highlighting as it reads.
I saw a scary lion.
There's a little bit of delay that you see there, but it actually is in line on my screen with the text as it reads. So you've got that additional reading support that you can add into your programs. And then we will click forwards, just turn the page, and we're on page 3. So we've got one more thing we're going to do before we head out and look at some resources that are available. So Control D to get into design mode, and we're ready to design on page 3. So I'm going to drag and drop a picture again, this time a monkey. Drag down to the Boardmaker button on the taskbar until it opens up, and then I can drop the monkey, let go of the mouse button onto the button there. With this button, this time, I'm going to double click, and I'm going to assign a couple of actions. I'm going to assign the spoken preview, and that really is like a preview button, or a button that you might use if you want to let people have a prompt as to what they need to do on the page, or it could be a prompt for what the button is about. So with some of the activities we looked at earlier, as I hovered my mouse over, they spoke what was on the button. So in this case, I'm going to say, what sound do you think the monkey makes? And click on OK. And I'm also going to play a recorded message, so this is where I can assign a sound. And this time I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to record a sound. I'm going to record a monkey sound. So I'll click on record a new sound, and when I'm ready I click record. Click stop, and then I can play that back. It's a great monkey sound. If I'm happy with it, I can click on OK, give it a name, monkey sound. Click on OK. And now we have both of those actions assigned, the preview and the monkey sound. So we could type some text on the right-hand side. Just type, I saw a monkey and he made a funny sound. Use my mouse pointer to click back on that, and we might just change the font size. Okay, and we can add our action for changing the page back. So we double click on the change back, page back button, click on change board, and we want it to go back to page 2. And we can, if we had a page to go forward to, we would add the action there. So let's test our monkey sound and preview. Control U for use, and that
What sound do you think the monkey makes?
Takes us into interactive mode. So as soon as I hovered my mouse over that monkey button, I hear,
what sound do you think the monkey makes?
What sound do you think it makes? And I can click on the button and I should hear my recording. Okay, so there we go. That's our activities for making a talking book. Most of those actions are ones you would use over and over with creating lots of different other types of activities. So we're more than happy for people, if they're using Boardmaker Plus and they're not quite sure how to do things, they can always give us a ring, or you can email us, and I'll have those details at the end. So now we're just going to go back out to the slides. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about some resources that are available. So there are some add-on CDs that you can purchase that will give you some pre-made interactive activities. So you can search for those on our web if you're interested in any of those. But more and more, I guess these days, people are quite keen to have the option for free activities. So you can access some free activities on our website under the Activity Exchange, which is under the heading of Supports and Services on our main page. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like now. If we go to our website, okay, so we're on the main page. I can go to Supports and Services. Once that's up, I can go to the far right column and choose the Activity Exchange. And here, if I scroll down, I've got Boardmaker Plus Activities link that I click on. And then if I scroll down here, I've got a list of activities that you can actually download for free. So there's some coin identification, job boards, behaviour support, social story example, talking mats. One of the great ones is the Very Hungry Caterpillar activities, which has both print activities and some interactive activities, which is great. If you do download some of those activities, you'll need to just read the instructions on what to do with the board package once you've downloaded it. It'll give you some instructions on how to actually import that into Boardmaker and be able to see it. Now, another place for getting free activities, and there's loads more, is Boardmaker Share. So that's www.boardmakershare.com, and you can sign up with an email and a password, but for free, basically you can download any number of activities, and there's well over 20,000 activities. I haven't really checked lately, but last time I looked there were 20,000, so I'm sure it's grown since then. what I normally do is I go up into the top search bar, and since it's getting close to Christmas, let's type in Christmas and hit return. And this is just a quick way to search. So I've got 200 activities. It says your search has returned 206 activities. And then we can see a little thumbnail of those activities. So there's things like bingo. This is an interactive one at the top here, so we can click on it to have a bit of a bigger view. And then if we wanted to, we can just download that activity, and it doesn't take very long at all. So a great way to find activities. Sometimes you might want to do a little bit more of an advanced search. So you can do that by clicking on advanced search, and that allows you to look for certain versions of Boardmaker, ones that will scan whether they're interactive or not. You may just want to find some print pages if they're for a device. And you can even search by language. So you've got your general search criteria as well, which is for different types of activities and age groups and things like that. So well worth a look at. It might save you some time in finding some activities that someone else has already created, and then all you need to do is just change it a little bit for the person or the group that you're doing it with. Then we will go back to our slideshow. The last website that's also very helpful is mayorjohnson.com. So here you can type in questions. You can also access some other online training sessions, the recorded ones. There's a great variety of those that you can download and watch. It also allows you to access downloads that are updates for Boardmaker that are free. They're usually just to iron out any bugs that it might have, so it's good to check what the latest updates are, and another place that you can share resources as well. So that brings us to the end of the webinar this afternoon. I'd just like to say thank you for coming along. I realise, Kelly, that you were waiting a while because I thought it was 2:15, so hopefully that's been a beneficial session for you to wait for and hear. Did you have any questions about Boardmaker Plus? My email address is there on the bottom of the screen if you do have any questions that you might think of later. But we do have a little bit of time now if you've got some questions or things you want me to show you. So I'll just wait to hear if you do have any of those. You can type those questions into the chat box and we'll go from there. Okay, I just had feedback that you didn't have any questions, Kelly, so that's no problem. If you do come up with any, please feel free to give us an email, or you can ring our Brisbane office and one of us will speak with you. So thanks for coming. You can leave the webinar just by clicking basically on the little cross if you've got that open so that you can see the chat box. Otherwise you need to press the little red square with the arrow so that it opens up your full screen, and you can exit by clicking on the cross. And we will end it there.